Good evening. I'm Brandy Burnwald, the Director of Alumni Relations at Ferris State University. And tonight, backed by popular demand for our December Alumni Social Hour, are Amy and Steve Dorey with their presentation, Rollin' in the Dough, Holiday Dessert Creations. Last December, the Doreys hosted one of our most popular social hours, Charcuterie Board Building 101. As you can imagine, there was no doubt we needed to have them back for an encore presentation. So tonight, the Doreys will present some holiday dessert favorites, including Steve's decadent Holiday Yule Log. So sit back, relax, prepare to be inspired with some dessert creations for your upcoming holiday celebrations. Don't worry if you miss an ingredient or two, because if you do any part of this presentation and you need to go back at a later date to review a section, this presentation will be found beginning tomorrow on this website under past events or our Facebook page at Ferris Alumni. Tonight's demonstration will be approximately an hour. Anytime during the presentation, you may click the Ask a Question button near the bottom of your screen. Amy and Steve are happy to answer questions as they come in. And now, a little bit about our special guests this evening. Amy Dorey currently serves as the Hospitality Management Program Director in the College of Business and is herself a 2006 Master of Business Administration graduate from Ferris State University. Steve Dorey is the Culinary Operations Manager and is responsible for the financial operation and menus for all Ferris State dining centers. Steve also holds a 2018 Project Management certification from the College of Business. Together, the Doreys has spent the majority of their careers in the hospitality industry. Steve has been an executive chef for 24 years at various Michigan fine dining restaurants and conference centers, and Amy teaches courses in hospitality management, dining room management, and special event planning. So with that, I now turn it over to Amy and Steve for their presentation of Rollin' in the Dough Holiday Dessert Creations.
Hello and welcome.
We're just rolling in the dough.
We are. I'm Steve.
And I'm Amy.
Tonight we're going to share a couple of, I'll say, kind of family recipes or family favorites, I would say, for the holidays. We're going to have, on the savory side, it's a chocolate pate. And so bittersweet chocolate, heavy cream, butter, egg yolks.
Clearly low calorie.
Yes. A little powdered sugar for a little bit of sweetness. Some pistachios and cherries. And just a little bit of rum, just for a little breathiness. Again, I'm using a bittersweet chocolate. So you want something around a 65 to 75% cocoa. And primarily you want that for the hardness. So that way it'll set up. It's somewhat fudge-esque. But again, on a little bit more on the savory side, it's not terribly sweet. And then Amy will go through some cookies and some other snacky things.
Sweet truffles.
Nice.
Little bites.
Little bites. Then we'll finish with the Bouche Noël or the Yule Log. And I have my eggs in here. So should we get started on the Yule Log first? That has to bake.
We should, because we have to bake that cake. And if you did not know, and I don't know if you know, the Yule Log has its roots in Scandinavia. And I have Scandinavian roots myself,
I always thought it was French.
Which must be why I'm so excited and in love with the Yule Log.
I thought it was just cake.
It is cake. Okay, I love cake.
Or
I do
olives.
love cake. And olives. I do love olives.
Cake and all the olives. Okay, so getting started on the cake. I have 4 eggs. And I beat them for about 4 minutes, and it is kind of loud, so I already pre-beat those. To this, we're going to add 2 cups of sugar. There's 2 primary ways to leaven or get body out of a cake. You're going to do it with a chemical leavener, like a baking soda or like a baking powder. You can use baking soda. Baking powder, or you beat in the eggs and you create a volume with your eggs. That'll be the base. That's what's going to give it height. And volume. Your flour is going to give it is the protein source, so that's going to give it its density and its structure. I'm using a cake flour. If you're using all-purpose flour, That's fine too. You just may want to use a little bit less, just a couple tablespoons, or maybe even like maybe 2 ounces less or something. But it'll have a little. So what cake flour is going to do is give you more of a dense, smaller grain. The all-purpose flour will be a little bit larger, more like a Genoa cake. So it's a little bit larger cells when it bakes up. Puffier.
I call it puffier. I will also tell you that cake flour is available right next to all-purpose flour in just about every baking section in your standard grocery store. We buy ours from Meijer's.
So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. So again, already beat the eggs. So you want those to grow. It's probably about twice to 3 times the size. They'll get light and frothy. And then to that, I'm going to add my sugar, and then I'm going to beat that. And while that's beating, we'll get into the chocolate pate. So the sugar, I'm just going to add in just a steady stream. Let me see if you can kind of see that. Here, I'll spin this around. There we go.
Perfect.
As that beats, if you're going to use a hand mixer, maybe just don't put it on high, because you want that nice and evenly distributed. And I guess you don't want to kind of over whip it, because you can kind of over whip it and it'll get really dense.
So what should I see happening right now, Steve? I'm the cake box girl. So since you're the scratch cake guy, what's happening once we start to add the sugar? Does it start to flatten, or does it maintain its volume?
Nope, it actually increases in volume as that sugar disperses. So you have a particulate in there, it's all agitating, so it's actually growing in volume. It's probably twice of what it was. We're going to let this go for about 3 to 4 minutes, just to get the maximum volume out of those eggs. Then we'll go ahead with the dry ingredients that I have: the flour, the baking powder, and salt already sifted together. You want to sift your ingredients together, 1, to incorporate them throughout the mix, and then 2, to get rid of any lumps that might be in there as well. So, because you don't want that, you'll end up with, especially if you're using baking powder, sometimes that gets hard and you'll have little granules in there, and that'll show up in your cake. So you want to make sure that it's sifted out. Then we will add the rest of our wet ingredients, and then we'll get it in the oven and bake it.
Sounds great. Now, the chocolate pate is a specialty. This is a recipe that Chef perfected during his days at a fine dining restaurant that was a traditional French facility in the Ann Arbor area. And it's been a tradition he carried forward for me as a chocolate lover. Olives and chocolate, I need nothing else in the world. And but this is really nice because it doesn't have that intensely sweet flavor. Mm-hmm. So I really like to have this as an opportunity or an option for people that don't consider themselves into traditional desserts or into traditional sweets, because it is much more of what I would call a savory opportunity. That bittersweet balances out really nicely with the pistachios and with the cherries, and really just provides for a smooth, it's like fudge, but so much better.
Full disclosure, we are using pasteurized egg yolks in this. It does call for egg yolks. The chocolate mixture gets up to about 140, 145 degrees when it's melted. And then there is sugar in there. There's also alcohol in there. But so I always use pasteurized eggs for this, nothing out of the chicken coop or neighbors.
If you follow standardized procedures for shell eggs, we are a little under the mark for minimum temperature requirements according to the the food safety codes. And with that in mind, it is just something that if you are serving anyone that has any type of an immune compromised system, this chocolate pate may not be your best bet unless you can get your hands on that pasteurized egg product, which is available again in most standard grocery stores.
So what we have here is we have our chocolate, the butter, and heavy cream. And we have these recipes are available through the website, right?
Yes, those recipes are posted.
The resource center. Yeah. So I'm doing about a pound of chocolate. Into that was a 3/4 cup of heavy cream and about an ounce or two of butter. 4 egg yolks, half a cup of pistachios and cherries. We have a little bit of rum. I'm using a coconut rum. Dark rum works really well with this as well. And then a little bit, as I said, probably 2 or 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar just to give it a little bit of sweetness. So I'm going to go ahead while this is about done beating. I'm going to go ahead and get this started melting on the stovetop. And Amy's going to go through a couple of her small bites.
Wonderful. So, Brandy, if you can just give me a check on sound. I know we needed to incorporate that mixer. We didn't have a lot of opportunity to talk about how well you can hear me over that.
I'll turn it on.
Are you sure? Okay. All right. So what I wanted to share with you now was just a few ideas on setting up those dessert buffets and displays. When we, the sugar cookie recipe, let me start with that. This is Grandma Viv. My grandmother was Vivian, and she is Scandinavian, hence those roots. But this sugar cookie recipe that's been posted in Resource Center is a little bit different than the traditional sugar cookie recipe, and it's the one I grew up with. And what you'll notice is that it incorporates nutmeg, and I bump that nutmeg every once in a while to really enhance that nutmeg flavor in the cookie. It's a little less sweet than a traditional sugar cookie. And so if you are looking for that sweet cookie experience, you will want to incorporate icing. But again, I like having some of those options of savory. And so what I will frequently do with that is just simply sprinkle a little bit of a colored sugar on the top to give it a little bit of decor and to make it look a little more interesting. But it's the perfect complement to cocoa. Okay, so if you are looking for something that's not as sweet as a traditional sugar cookie, that nutmeg Grandma Viv's recipe is a really great one. And one tip I will give you with that recipe, it doubles perfectly. So you can follow that recipe, simply double the batch, and you're going to get anywhere from 3 to 4 dozen, depending on how thick you like your sugar cookies. It does work best if you give it at least an hour in the refrigerator after you make that dough. And then I'm the person that I like to take my time when I'm rolling those out because I like to get the same thickness. And so I will actually make that dough. I'll prepare that the night before. And then the next day I'll come back. And then it's nice and chilled. It's nice and dense. I'll pull out a section of it, just enough to be rolling, and I'll leave the rest of it covered in the refrigerator. So it works out really, really well. And that timing is pretty precise. It is a cookie that doesn't golden necessarily. You're going to look for this particular recipe to puff nicely, and then it's just going to balance out. It's not going to flatten down. It's going to kind of stay a little bit puffier, and so frosts really nicely as well. Okay, so if we look at this little piece, one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that if you're having a dessert buffet and you're doing an array of pieces, little tiny bite size are super fun. These are actually almost super, super tiny, but it allows people to snack at them. So these are just little Christmas trees that we did with a little mini Christmas tree cutter. These cookie cutters are actually from a pie cutter set. So they're designed to allow you to cut out shapes that then you can place on top of a pie crust. And then, of course, we also have the little blue stars. The other bite, and this is a trick that I discovered from a colleague. So Professor Catherine Wolfer, if any of you are familiar with her, remember her from hospitality management, turned me on to Oreo Balls. And I have to share this with you because to me, 2 things I always have in my house are cream cheese and Oreos. Oreo, an American staple in the world. But 1 package of Oreo cookies crushed in your food processor, blended with 1 8-ounce bar of cream cheese. And that's all you're doing. Then you take that, you roll those into whatever size of truffle or little cake pop you would like. And that's what you'll see on this plate. I did 2 versions of the Oreo ball. One of them is dipped in a white chocolate. So that kind of seals that in there. I sprinkled a little bit of red sugar on it. And then the other one, I didn't dip in chocolate. I actually just rolled it in the red sugar. Gives it a really festive appearance, makes it look like little holly berries. But these are just fun little pieces. You can do small little plates like this, scatter them about the area of your party, and then people can, like I said, they can snack on that. And it doesn't feel as significant as committing to a full-scale dessert.
Great. Back to the chocolate pate. So I've melted this. If you're going to stand there, if you have the time, and you're going to stand there, that took what, maybe 7 minutes, maybe 5 minutes?
I think probably 5 minutes.
On medium to medium low heat. Because you are adding it's like right now it's basically a ganache, right? It's a little bit heavier, a little thicker than a ganache because of the higher cocoa content. But you can use a double boiler if you don't have the time to stand there and constantly stir it and make sure it doesn't burn or scorch. But essentially, yeah. So I got just kind of it's a thick kind of melted chocolate kind of a paste thing.
It's like a hot fudge consistency.
It's like it is like hot fudge. And then to that, I'm gonna one at a time whisk in two at a time because two fell out.
Because two came in.
Because that kind of happens. My egg yolks, and this is gonna give it body. It's adding more. Like you need more fat into this, but more fat to it.
It's going to contribute to that really creamy texture. This has an amazing mouthfeel. We talk about the similarity to fudge, but this has such a denseness to it that it's a really neat experience.
And then to that, in go the pistachios and cherries. And the rum. So let's go with, 2 tablespoons.
One more.
3.
3 tablespoons.
And powdered sugar. And to that, probably like 2 heaping tablespoons would be good. Again, if you want a little sweeter, you can add a little more. Yeah, it's just going to melt.
What happens if I skip the powdered sugar?
It's kind of bitter. It's especially if you get up into the 70s with your the amount of cocoa, that can get really bitter.
But I bring this forward because dark chocolate is really something that I think a lot more people are enjoying today. Even trending into those 80-90%, the super darks. Mm-hmm. So it is something that you can do. You don't even have to add that sweet if you're really looking for that experience.
So once you get everything incorporated, again, you're just kind of stirring it in. You want to mold. I find glass or metal work the best. I have film wrap, and you want to tuck it in the corners. Try to make sure you don't have any overlap. So you don't want any pinched or overlap because that chocolate's going to set in there, makes it harder to get out. I've also for the restaurant, I would do it's kind of a half steam table pan, the long ones, so we call them shotgun pans. And I would line that with parchment paper. It just made it a lot easier, and then it doesn't wrinkle. But you're just going to fill the mold and something like that. And then I give it a little tap, get some air out of it, a couple of those, and just kind of fold the flaps over of the film wrap. And then you're going to want to put this in the freezer. I let it sit overnight in the freezer. And it'll set up like a heartbreak. So I have them prepared, so we'll see that in a little bit.
I'll put this in the freezer.
Great. So we'll go ahead and move forward with our cake. Now that we have our eggs whipped and show you a little bit of that. So that's kind of the consistency. You want to see ribbons. They call them ribbons. I don't know if it's kind of bright, if you can see that or not. But it should lay down ribbons in the batter, like a thick pancake batter kind of consistency. I'm going to slowly add in the flour as we mix to incorporate it.
What will happen with size as we add flour? Should that maintain? Will it get smaller, bigger?
It's about the same. Okay. So
now
if it does start getting a little
slow.
dry, yes, you just want to mix it to incorporate. You don't want to beat it because then it'll fall. Yeah, we'll just go ahead with the flour. So if it does get a little dry, sometimes I'll add a little bit of the milk So you can add just and this is kind of messy, just a little bit to re-moisten it, so it incorporates the flour a little bit better. And a little bit more milk. Rest of the flour. If you're going to fold it by hand, that works well too. Just get a good spatula and you just turn it over, scraping the bottom of the bowl. Show you what that looks like. So if you're going to get in there and it kind of, you want to just be folding it over to incorporate, just go round and around, cut through it, just go over. You're going to add in the remainder of the milk, our butter, maybe. I got a little hard on me. There you go. And incorporate that in. I need the vanilla out of that drawer, please. Again, good ribbons. So we still have our volume. We haven't lost it. Just a splash of vanilla. You can use maple, works great too. Any other kind of extract that you like.
It fits the holidays. Can I use peppermint?
I guess you could.
That would be yummy.
That would be different. And so that's our batter. The rum. I guess you could put rum in it if you want. Then parchment lined pan. Make sure you get your parchment all the way into the corners, even up on the side, I guess, just a little bit if you can. Maybe even spray the sides or rub it with a little
butter.
Yep. No fat. Just going to pour the batter on.
So how big is this pan? What size pan do I need?
This is a 13 by 20. So depending on your pan size, it'll just be however big you want your Yule log, I guess. And you want to spread it even. Make sure you push it into the corners. That's usually the place where it gets thin. Most pans, just as they cook or as you use them, kind of deform in the middle. So you'll end up with kind of a bow in the middle. So you want to make sure you push it out. It'll come back into the middle. I don't think you have to worry about that too much. Add a little bit more.
Tell me when.
That's good. Plenty. All right. And then this, I'm going to go throw in cakes you want to bake at 325 to 350. This one, probably 18 minutes to 20 minutes. Check it with a toothpick. Everybody's oven is a little bit different. And then so those important things, you don't want to overbake it because of the sugar and everything in it. It will get crisp in the corners. If that happens, just trim it out. You can cut around it and you'll be fine. Once you take the cake out of the oven, you want to let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes, cool a little bit on top. Then you need to train your cake if you're going to do a Yule log or any kind of rolled cake. There's a summer version I used to do at the restaurant that was the same cake, but we did a passion fruit mousse. So a light, airy, almost kind of like a passion fruit whipped cream, like a chantilly cream. And then that was the frosting on the interior. And then we had kiwi, mango, raspberries, some other fruit, whatever fruit you want. And then I'd roll it and then just use some tongs and just sear the top and make like little X's across the top and stuff. So there are other things you can do with a sponge cake and stuff that that you can roll up and do. So it's not just for Christmas too, but to train your cake, flip it out over onto a piece of parchment paper And
May I have that parchment
Yep,
paper
so this will be
on
warm.
a nice clean
on a nice clean
like a
towel.
terry
Yep.
towel.
Yep, and then I just kind of fold that to get started with your towel. And this one I've done a couple different times, so it's already cracked, but that's fine. And then you just want to gently roll up your cake while it's still warm. It'll still be hot. And then just let it sit. So you're going to let it kind of cool. So you want to let it sit like this for at least 15 minutes, 15 to 20, 30 minutes. And that's going to train it to roll. So you're not trying to roll it with frosting on it and everything else. And then
When
it'll
it's
start
cold
cracking.
and it's already trained to be flat, you're going to get, we already have cracks.
Yeah.
But what I learned the hard way, you get big cracks and it falls apart in really fragmented ways if you don't go through and train it.
So this one's been trained several times already. So we can move on to frosting it. So I'm going to uncover it. And as you can see, this one's already cracked, but that's fine. You won't even see it when you're done with the Yule Log. So I'm going to use just a...
Is the knife over there? Would you like a new knife? Here you are.
So I'm just going to use a jar frosting. If you want it spread a little easier, go ahead and whip it. You can put it in in a bowl and just...
So this is what I will tell you about family philosophy. He's a master at buttercream.
Yes.
And so chocolate buttercream, vanilla buttercream, any kind of buttercream. However, he also knows that his wife has an age-old childhood love for Betty Crocker frosting. And I think you can't beat what comes out of that container.
And you don't even have to use frosting. I mean, you can, you want to use a raspberry preserve, raspberry jam. That would work wonderful in this as well.
Could I use a blueberry jam?
No.
Okay. Yes, you can.
You
can use
whatever you
blueberry.
want. Your Yule Log. So I keep the inside one kind of thin, and you'll see why. There's kind of two ways, I guess, to make the outside, but
So when you say inside and outside, what do you mean? So this is your inside, so
Yep.
you're keeping a thinner layer on this side
Yes.
of the icing, and it's thickening as you come over here.
No. The inside of this is going to be the rolled up inside of the log,
Oh, I
inside
see.
of the cake. So the underneath is actually the outside.
I see.
Get over the edges. There we go.
This is looking a little messy.
Yeah, it's a little messy.
That's okay though, because it's inside the cake.
That's true.
That's my point.
So, I'm going to slide the parchment paper out. You can use that to kind of roll it if you want as well. Now the thing is, so when you're rolling it, you don't want the towel to go on the inside of it. We're going to flip that over. You got to crack again. And then as you roll it, just kind of lift the towel. And get that ready. Right at the bottom. Put it on the platter. And kind of roll it. And you see I got a crack right there.
But that's
Yep,
okay.
just roll it
'cause
right off.
We're going to roll it
There we
off. And it's going to be on the side. And
Just
we're
like
going to
that.
cover that with icing anyway.
Yep. So we got a roll. And this does work better after when it's a little warm, actually. So, so we have our platter. We have our log. Now, there's a couple different ways you can decorate this. So, all logs are a little bit different. I like a good number 2 tip.
Can you show them closely what the end of the tip
Yep,
looks
it's a
like?
star tip. So it's going to give us a bark-like feature. So what I like to start with is maybe some knots, right? So trees have knots. So I'm going to go around and make kind of like some circles, maybe elongated. Maybe put one there, put one on this side. Maybe one on the end over here. So they're just kind of circles. You can see those. And then I'm just going to kind of do some wavy down, right down the line. And then just kind of go next to the one that you just laid. Okay, now I'm doing this on the outside, so I can't really see. I'm going to have to spin it. Like that. Now when you get to your knots, just kind of stop at that part and keep going. Stop. Just kind of fill it in like that. You go around that one. I'm going to need some more frosting.
Well, I'll tell you what. While you do that, I think we should show these friends at home how I make a Yule log.
How do you make a Yule log?
I have a different tactic to make a Yule log.
Do you want me to get the mixer back out and the cake mix
That's
and the flour?
really not necessary because it's really not going to turn out well. Anyone that knows me, especially my students, know that I have an innate ability to burn water. You remember my attempt at rice. Is that risotto? No,
Yes.
But I tried.
We ate it anyway.
So, hacker method. This is how I make a Yule log. This is my friendly local bakery, and they sell cake rolls. We're not all destined to be amazing bakers. So I'm going to pop this little $4.99 bad boy open, and I'm simply going to roll this out, and I'm going to place this here. Now, this is powder sugared, so we could even stop from here. And we can talk about the different ways that you can decorate. One of the things that we do know about the Yule log from its roots in Scandinavia is that that practice actually originated when at the New Year, people would go out and they would bring in actual logs, and there were specific measurements they were looking for. They were usually about 4 feet in length, and they would place them into their hearths with one end burning and one end out on the edge of the hearth. And it was a process that over several days, they would burn a portion of the Yule log. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of history steeped into that and a lot of tradition about how that would help you in the new year and bring wealth and success to your family. Mm-hmm. So that's why I trend toward making it look like a log. But if you don't have a piping bag or a number 2 star tip at home, again, I just got my jar of frosting. And I'm going to do this with your standard table knife.
Well, there you go. While you frost that, something else you can do, I just remembered this or thought of this one, is you can cut this on a bias. So I'm going to cut this if it doesn't break on me. And then take that piece and put it off to the side if you want to have like a split or kind of a branch like that would be coming off. You could do that as well. And then you're just going to fill that in with your frosting.
Frosting is exceptionally forgiving. And that's the beautiful part of the Yule log, is that we're also going to talk about some ways that you can enhance your Yule log to make it even more festive. And the fun part is that you can use and save yourself time by using other components of other desserts you've already made.
And on the ends, I like to go ahead and just do a swirl, just like you kind of did with a knot, just to kind of finish it so it's nice and sealed. So frosting does kind of 2 things too. So it is sweetening, it does, all that. But it does protect the cake's moisture. So once it's all covered, if you can get it all covered well, it actually helps keep the cake moist inside so it doesn't dry out. So you want to make sure you get it all coated pretty well. So now I have that for my ends. So we're looking like a log, a little branch coming out the side. Oh, I feel like Bob, that painter guy. Bob Ross.
What a
little Bob Ross. We can put a little happy tree over here.
Put a happy little knot on that tree, Bob.
There we go.
And in any presentation on the plate, you're going to have some areas, and I can show you over here, where you can see where my frosting went a little rogue on me. So I'm just going to take a paper towel. I'm just going to wipe that off, because one thing I definitely recommend is frost it on the platter you will serve it on. Because once it's in place, you don't want to have to move it again.
And since we were using egg yolks in the chocolate pate, I took the egg whites, so I saved those and made some meringue mushrooms that we can decorate our Yule log with. So the meringue is whipped egg whites with sugar and a little cream of tartar. And then you want to dry them out in an oven. A nice low oven, 250 or so. It kind of, or dehydrated or even might work. But you just want to dry them out. Here, try it in the air fryer. Then just put a couple on here. So we have a couple of mushrooms. You can set them off to the side. And put that over here. And one in the middle. What about like holly? What can we use for holly?
Grandma Viv's sugar cookies.
Oh yeah, you got some leaves.
So
tuck a couple of leaves in here. That's a Christmas tree.
That, you don't want Christmas tree. You want Christmas tree.
A couple leaves in there. A little maple leaf. That's on there.
Yeah, some sugared ones. Do you want a sugared one?
Sure.
There's some pretty ones.
I'll let you drop those. A little mushroom right here.
The eye is drawn to everything in threes, so be careful about being too symmetrical. So we've got 2 leaves over here. We're going to do a third.
And we have some mint. So we take a couple of mint sprigs or leaves. Drop those there. Amy has a couple of her from her small bites.
So if you remember, we have those little Oreo balls, rolled them in some sugar, not uncoincidentally to look like little holly berries.
All right there.
Now right here.
Thank you. And we'll put another one right here. And we're probably good.
So one of the fun things about the Yule log is you can decorate that, match your theming, match your decor, pull it in line with your home or with your personal preferences and tastes. So this is more of a traditional look, right? Very natural. So we've got the meringue the meringue mushrooms and the holly. But one other option for you. Let me grab these. All the things. So these are picks. So if any of you have ever made a handmade or homemade wreath, you're familiar with these. We use these to decorate our greenery and our wreaths. You might even find them for trees. They're available at any standard craft store, so Joann's. So you could take something that looked very much like the icicles on branches and some fun little holly. And you can tuck these in around that to do a very kind of elegant, sophisticated look. Or you can look for something that's a little bit more whimsical. So these are just kind of some of those fun little picks. Things that are going to give a little nod to holly berries and some greenery. But my favorite, again, I love this tradition. I run a little bit more. So we're going to do a little bit of glitter. So use beautiful fancy. So we have mine. You can simply just tuck these in around. You know me, I love a little bit of glitter.
There you go.
Glitter and balloons. And we can even drop in some of these areas a couple of these fantastic little bite-sized truffles. I'm not certain I'm loving that over there, but I really like it over here. I want them to see that with the green, the red.
There you go.
Lots of fun ways to decorate cake. Okay.
And this is our chocolate pate that has been in the freezer overnight.
How did you get that out of the glass?
with a fork. Just kind of work it around the sides, or a offset spatula. Just kind of work it around the sides. And it usually pops right out. You can put it in a little bit of warm water. Just watch out for the glass. If you're using glass, it doesn't crack. It does kind of help if you want to reconstitute the cherries a little bit.
How do you reconstitute cherries?
So you can cook them in the rum or a brandy if you want. Just heat it up a little bit, put your cherries in there, pull it off the heat, and just let it kind of steep. They'll soften up a little bit. Sometimes they are kind of hard to cut. So I usually just do thin slices, about 1/8 of an inch thick. Like yay. Because it is, like I said, super rich. You can leave them right on a cutting board, just kind of fan them out. Put it on a serving platter, let them fan out. But what you end up with is, I don't know if you can see that real well. So there's the cherries, the pistachios are throughout. And again, it's just a super rich, just kind of savory morsel. I've rolled them into the balls and done them on toothpicks or skewers and have those arranged out. It's a pretty versatile little dessert you can do a lot of different things with. Use it as a truffle base. Hand roll those out and then roll them around in some powdered sugar or different colored sugars for a little truffle. Works really well. Chew. Did you want to go through the process of making the little truffle balls?
I feel like that is pretty straightforward.
The cream cheese and the crushed Oreos.
Yeah, you're going to drop those into a food processor, crush them, cake style, yay! So we'll give you just a glimpse of that so that you can see what that looks like before you train it. And actually see if we can train a warm one. That might be a really good idea. I'm just so torn how to move around my desserts. Fantastic. So here it comes.
So there's a cake. I'm just going to kind of cut down the side, and it is still super hot. So
yeah, so it's going to grab everything. How long should I wait to try and
like
cut
10
this?
minutes.
So usually let it set in the pan for about 10 minutes.
Yep.
Then you're going to run that knife around. Then you won't get the grabbing.
Yep.
Grabbing means it's too hot.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. That's right. And I'll grab the towel. I'm just going to use the same one. So I'll put this on top. Usually have my parchment down. Flip that over. Grab my knife.
You let me know if you need help. I'm staying out of your way right now.
There's that. Let's see. So once you have that out, again, you can. I like to leave the parchment on there for right now. You can loosen it if you want, but I feel it kind of helps with the cracking. Kind of holds it together, so it's kind of a paper layer there, kind of like a board of drywall, I guess. So, but that's our cake there, and then you're just going to the flat there. Give it a light roll. Again, I'm going long way as well, so I have a little bit longer of a Yule log. You could go the other way, and it'll just be more dense and a little bit around. So I'm just going to let that sit again for 15 or 20 minutes, just to let it kind of start to cool or whatever. But you can see when you pull it back, it kind of lifts up a little bit, and this one laid right back down, so no cracking. Again, you just don't want to keep rolling and unrolling like I did the other one. Plus, I made it yesterday, so it kind of dries out. A day-old cake is kind of dry. So this one will be nice and moist. It's very spongy. It's a pretty good recipe for a roll. Other cakes you can use is a Genoa. That's a nice one. Really anything that's not terribly like a high ratio. Never use bread flour. That's way too high a protein. Anything that's kind of whipped for leavening. A little bit of baking powder just kind of helps and aids into that, but primarily you want a cake that's whipped, that you're going to whip in. I've never tried it with a box cake. I have no idea if that would work or not. I would think that would crumble.
It would crumble.
So you kind of have to make this one from scratch. Okay, well, there you go.
It would crumble.
I guess we know now.
So we do have a question.
What's that?
So you mentioned using other fillings like fruit, etc. How would you go about garnishing the exterior in that case? Are there specific flavor profiles you should shoot for? I can speak from experience. His summer version of this that he would do with that passion, it was kind of like, think like passion fruit mousse, kind of a dense cream inside with the rolled, it was very tropical. So it had kiwis, pineapple, guava, mango. And then he would roll that up. And then it was I know I've had it with your white buttercream.
Yep. I've not even frosted them. Like I said, like I would just a light coating of powdered sugar on top. Again, and then use tongs, just a set of tongs, or and when I say tongs, they're the long kind of like chopsticky kind of things, not the tongs like you think for grilling. You can use a fork, so you heat up a fork over open flame and touch it on the top of the cake, so you're just going to kind of burn it into it. Some marks.
We don't hit not these tongs.
Not those tongs.
Not these tongs. We don't even have the right tongs. Fork on a burner works well though. Or
lemon works great, and then just or strawberry cream. You can just do a chantilly cream, which is like it's whipped cream. It's kind of whipped cream. It's a little stiffer. Cream of tartar in there, and
strawberries.
So strawberries and cream. Grilled peaches would be great in that too. So you can grill them, kind of char them up a little bit. That'd be nice. A little balsamic in there. You could take this, like I said, you can, once you get this vehicle done, you can do so much with it. That's what makes it a great.
Could I take a dark chocolate icing on the inside, frost the outside with chocolate, and do peppermint? Sprinkle crushed peppermint over it? So I could do a peppermint
crush up
version?
Candy canes and put it in the middle. You wanted the mint in there.
I did want the mint in there. I do like mint.
Crushed up candy cane inside the inside layer would be really kind of neat. Yeah, something different.
Give it a crunch as well.
Sure.
Could I add nuts
Any
inside?
other questions? How many slices?
Can you get out of that particular log? 3. If I'm cutting.
What I usually do when I'm cutting things is
score the top.
Yep. Well, I'll do. Yep. You can score the top or use it as a measurement, like maybe a knife, right? So a slicing knife. Then you just roll it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're halfway. So I would say about 12. I usually start in the middle and then work my way on the outs. That way you can kind of make an adjustment. So if you're cutting it and you get a couple, you're like, oh, I'm getting a little short here. Then you can go thinner, and you have this to go thinner to make it. That's kind of a trick that chefs use for anything they're serving, plating or anything like that for.
So if I'm doing a
portion control,
roast or
same thing.
prime rib,
mashed potatoes or whatever you have. So you kind of divide your pan, and then you're scooping out your dishing. So that way you can go a little bit lighter on the second half. So
fantastic.
Any other ones? I don't see it.
Can you make the cake chocolate? My family loves chocolate. So how can we make that vanilla cake chocolate cake?
Use cocoa powder.
Cocoa powder?
Yep. So you're going to introduce that in with your flour. So when you're sifting your flour, I'm not really positive. I think of the ratio kind of off the top of my head, but you're going to use cocoa powder and sift that in with your dry ingredients, your baking powder and your flour. It may make it a little bit more dense, just because you're adding, another dry ingredient, like another, whatever, 2-3 ounces. So maybe cut back on their flour, just a couple tablespoons, but should be fine. So, and that's easy enough to do.
Another question, you two have been awesome. Thank you. What are each of your favorite desserts personally? Yes. Is that an answer? Is that yes, dessert? Yes. I'm a big fan of key lime pie. I love key lime pie. However, I will tell you, his chocolate pate is something that is a real treat for me. It's a little time consuming for making it, and it does take a little something special. You might have to make it a few times to get it just right and put the right amount of love in. As I always tell him, it's the love in these items. But I would say those are my two favorites.
That's a hard one. Favorite dessert?
Pie.
Apple pie.
Apple pie.
It's apple pie. But I'm a sucker for the pastries. So
yes. A good apple fritter or a bear claw. Yes. We're pretty easy to please.
Pastries, Napoleons.
Yes.
Are great.
Yes. But so I think we can kind of do a final display here, don't you? Show off some of the handiwork. So this is just another version of that same little plate. So again, just those little mini bites. These are those Oreo balls. I rolled them in some melted chocolate in white chocolate. And then those are just sugar frosted. This is that example of that chocolate pate. I just dropped some cookies around it, made it fun. And we have this.
The Yule Log in there.
Big, beautiful Yule Log. And then I would even venture to say that while my log may not be as exciting, there's still love in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can see the difference in what happens with those frosting techniques. And so there is that advantage to the tip. This really looks a lot more like bark, but you can absolutely get away with some good swirls. That was just a butter knife, not even a frosting knife.
You can even take a knife and kind of run it down it a long way. Trees aren't all barky.
Look at that. How did you do that? See?
Just kind of wavy lines running down through it.
There is another question for us. For transport, would you take the log in those slices or move it as is, or just plan to host the holiday party at your house? Always have it at your house. No, that is one of the tricks is covering it. One thing that I would tell you is if you have a platter like this, if you have a larger platter, and then you can find or watch for or even create your own box lid, that's going to be your best bet, because any way you try to cover this with a saran, you're going to run into some challenges. Yep. But if you have to cover it with saran, the trick is toothpicks or wooden skewers.
You have a box.
A box?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would box it. If you could set it in a box and then close the flaps and stuff.
Yes.
Just if you're going to decorate it, with the, cookies, berries, the mushrooms and stuff, take that separate and just set it up when you get there. Mm-hmm. So do the final decorations when you get there.
Great idea. Very good tip. Great. Well, it has been super, super fun.
It has.
We're a little bit early.
That's okay.
That's because I didn't show them how to roll Oreo balls. I can show you unrolled Oreo balls. This is what they look like. Super exciting. But the fun part on these, when my colleague told me about them, she said she had no idea it was as simple as 2 ingredients. And I'm a big advocate for something that you can whip up really quick. So if you get that last minute invitation or you have some guests pop over, friends stop in, just always remember that entertaining is just about being welcoming. Your house doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfectly presented. It's always the love in it that makes it special. And so some of those simple ingredients that you can have and just be available, ready to pop out a couple of bites for people to enjoy with a warm welcome is always going to be the key, which I almost forgot. I wanted to ask you this. If this is in the freezer, can I make the pate now, put it in the freezer, leave it in the freezer, and bring it out next week or the week after that?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I used to make batches of it in, 6 or 8 pans. And they're fine in there. I mean, it's chocolate and everything else. So once it's frozen, I would say up to 6 months. So I would wrap it, pop it out of the mold, wrap it really good, and then put it back in the freezer. But probably 6 months. I don't know. It's never around long enough. It's never around that long.
It doesn't,
I don't know how long it
longer.
lasts.
But in theory, we could do
6
that.
months, yeah.
So if it's a little slower now, and I know I'm going to have a lot of guests during Christmas holidays, I can make 2 or 3 batches of that, leave it in my freezer, and then bring it out. That is the other nice piece. It thaws and comes to temp pretty quick. So if your guests are arriving and you pull it out and set it on the plate and leave it room temperature, it's going to be ready within 30 minutes.
Yeah, once you slice it, it's probably already getting soft. So yeah, it's already pretty flat.
It doesn't look soft.
That's pretty soft.
Oh, it's pretty soft. Yeah, that works.
All right.
All right, could you go back over the mushrooms? Oh, that was a good question. What was the meringue thing you did? I've only ever seen it on a pie. So this will be our last question coming in.
Okay. So, take one of these up. So there's 2 parts to the mushroom. There's the base, so you want to pipe that. So it's pistachio, egg whites, sugar, cream of tartar, and you want to beat that on high till you get really stiff peaks. Whipped cream consistency, if not even, like frosting basically. So by stiff peaks, so when you pull it up, it's just going to stand straight up. Take that, and you want a circular.
You want to demonstrate with icing?
You want a circular tip, not a star tip. And then you're going to just go straight up to kind of make a tower kind of a thing like that. And then some of them you're going to push down and leave flat like that. That's the cap. So you got the cap and the tower basically. So.
And then when there we go. Sure. And when you do that without the star tip, when you do it with a circle, it comes out smooth.
Yep.
And that's what gives you that really great fun little, and I can kind of, I need one of those specialized cameras for that. If you can kind of see how
But it looks like a little chocolate, what do you call them? Pestle. Chocolate
stem
chip.
of the mushroom?
Yeah, like a chocolate chip.
It looks like a chocolate chip does.
And then you're going to pipe them out, and then you want them in a low oven, 250, 275 for probably an hour or so. Because you really want to dry them out, pull all that moisture out of it.
And they'll get nice and kind of golden.
Yep. They will golden. You can do it, you keep it low enough. 250, they might not brown on you because you might not caramelize that sugar. I like a little bit of color to it because it looks a little bit like a toadstool. So at the end, I just kind of turn it up a little bit. Turn up the oven to 325 or something like that, and just watch it really close because once that sugar starts to caramelize, it's going to go quickly. It does kind of stick to the paper. Parchment works better than like wax paper, but so you want to line your pan or spray it really good. But it's parchment paper down. They come right up.
Parchment's in a roll in the same section as your wax paper and everything at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
We enjoyed it. It was fun.
Oh my gosh. You guys, that looked spectacular. I thought I could do this at first when you were doing the cake. I thought I'm on this. I can do this, Steve. And then when you went in with your knots and you with the lines, I don't know. I may have to try Amy's version first and then see if I can go back for your version. But
you can
definitely.
You can do it.
You can do it.
And this is definitely an event where I wish I was there in person because I'm missing out on sampling those goodies. So I'm a little jealous. You do. Thanks again, you guys. You're spectacular. I can't thank you enough. Tonight was so much fun. And I appreciate you both allowing us to come into your kitchen and providing the inspiration for some upcoming holiday desserts. So thank you.
Wonderful. Have a wonderful holiday.
You too. You too. As a reminder, if you missed any part of the presentation or would like to go back and review a section, this demonstration will be found beginning tomorrow on this website under past events or on our Facebook page at Ferris Alumni. We will return after the holidays for a special January Alumni Social Hour in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Listen to a discussion on the Black history and civil rights leadership that came out of Ferris. That presentation will be Thursday, January 13th at 7 p.m., brought to you by our very own Franklin Hughes. Franklin received a Master of Science in Career and Technical Education from FSU in 2017, and he's written dozens of articles for the Jim Crow Museum. He is also the co-author of Haste to Rise, a remarkable experience of Black education during Jim Crow. So for more information on that Alumni Social Hour, go to our website, visit us at ferris.edu/alumni, and you can get signed up. Thanks again, Bulldogs. Have a great holiday season, and we will see you next year.